This episode is sponsored by Free Market Kids.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to part 2 of my conversation with Lindsay.
Why Bitcoin is a superior asset.
Do they generally accept that bridge from inflation to Bitcoin? Or is there a common question that comes up after you share that analogy about the grocery store owner versus the grocery worker?
Yeah, that usually is that kind of directs the conversation into a conversation about broader economics. There's usually a question, because it's everybody's, foundational teaching that you learn in school that, inflation is necessary for an economy to run. Deflation is, you're going to have the Great Depression all over again. And there's a lot of misconceptions in that model, but it's ingrained in almost everyone, especially if you live in the West. So then, I don't know, we tend to do a little history of money, and like kind of attributes of what makes something a good money and what makes something a bad money, and why gold is money and why notebooks aren't. But, the path to breaching the topic of Bitcoin specifically with this analogy is usually not something I would even necessarily do in the same day if I'm just kind of casually introducing someone to this world. It's, it has to be a slow process. And if someone feels like you're pushing something, they're going to back off, and they're going to back off hard. And that's something you have to be aware of. It's like you have to meet people where they are.
Yeah, that is so true. So I'm just curious again, when you went down the rabbit hole and you're getting excited and you're starting to talk about it, what was the reaction from the people who are closest to you?
A lot of skepticism, and a lot of kind of concern that I was, being scammed or gambling or, something like that. After, I don't know, it was pretty clear to most people close to me that I was spending an enormous amount of time in this space because, I'm a bookworm anyway. But I was really, really spending a lot of time researching and reading about this. And I think there came a point where they realized that, no, this isn't gambling. This isn't, just some, involved in a bubble or something like that. I'm a pretty thoughtful person. And I think those closest to me kind of recognized that and were like, all right, this is, not something that they personally might want to get involved in, but it was something that they could respect. And they kind of learned that if you bring it up, that you're treading on a slippery slope. I might not stop talking. But yeah, after a while, they came to respect it, and I think that was kind of an important part of eventually getting some of them to kind of to follow me and to understand, why I'm so interested and why it's so important. It's like they needed that primer to kind of neutralize the negative associations they might have had with Bitcoin before that. Because you hear on the news, it's magic internet money, it's a bubble, it's for hackers and criminals or whatever else they try and attach to the label. And I feel like seeing someone that they knew in person, or that they just, someone that they knew wasn't involved in any of those nefarious activities, kind of neutralized that negative association.
I think that a really huge tell, like what you were saying before, is if Bitcoiners will have nothing to gain, keep talking about it with your family and friends, there's something there, right? There's something that we have identify with. So I'm just curious, if we go back in time to 10-year-old Lindsay, and how did you kind of dream about your life that led you to wanting to become a paramedic in the first place? And can you draw some parallel to where your life direction is going now?
Oof. Well, as a kid, I never thought I'd do anything with the medical field. I thought that sounded so incredibly boring. And I always loved to write. I always loved to tell stories and write stories. And when I initially started going to college right after I graduated high school, I went into technical writing, which sounds even more boring than the medical field, but I thought I was going to be a magazine editor. And then it was on the first day of my second year, and I don't know, I was standing in the grocery store, and there was, a stand full of magazines. And it's like I just looked at it, and a lot of them were tabloids, but I just had this overwhelming feeling of like, I can't waste my life on something that you barely look at when you're in line waiting at the grocery store. Like I need to do something that actually helps people. And so I dropped out of school that day, and I went and talked to a couple people that I, was loosely acquainted with who happened to work on a fire department. And I kind of talked about the best way into first responding, and they told me about an EMT class, and I was shortly thereafter signed up and well on my way. And after 7 years of that, I realized it still wasn't for me. But I don't know that I really had, any concrete dreams as a kid. I was pretty reserved, pretty quiet, and didn't have a real goal. I was very much in the moment. And I think, honestly, I think that changed like most intensely. I mean, a little bit after that college experience and going into paramedicine, but I feel like the point at which I found Bitcoin was a really kind of transformative time in my life, and it's like I feel like I think more about my time and about my future than I ever have before this. And I think Bitcoin kind of has that effect after you learn enough about it, and you learn enough about the other people in the world who need it far more than I do and who are using it as a survival mechanism right now. It's like knowing those kinds of stories just kind of changes your outlook on life.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm hearing a common thread here, which is that you wanted to do something that mattered, something that was important.
Yes, absolutely. I am terrified of wasting time.
That's a great bridge into our next segment. Let's talk about your current project with Bitcoin.
Yes, so after I had been fully down the rabbit hole for a little while, I decided I wanted to devote more time to it. I'd already kind of orange pilled some family, some friends, some in-laws, and I wanted to kind of broaden my reach a little bit. So I decided to start a class on through Airbnb experiences to teach people about Bitcoin. And it's something that anybody could sign up for, and it would be an in-person class. Kind of was gearing it towards people who were skeptic, who were not tech savvy, who wanted someone to kind of hold their hand and help them through the harder parts of it. And that's still a pretty new thing. I do it every couple months. And I don't know, it's been so much fun. I kind of walk everyone through, the basics of Bitcoin, the history of money, the petrodollar, basics of, mining nodes, blockchains. And we do practice transactions at the end and kind of just show everyone like you don't need to be a tech expert to get this. Like it's you download an app on your phone and it's very, very simple. And it's fun because sometimes, people will, like, I'll have a younger, not the last time, but a few times ago, I had a younger guy who brought his parents over, and the younger guy was a little bit into it. He definitely knew a lot more about it than his parents. And I like to always start off, like, what made you come here today? And he immediately answered, and it was more or less what I expected. And that, but then neither of his parents had said anything. And so like, so what about you guys? What is your feeling about Bitcoin right now? And the woman was just like, oh, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Like, I'm just here because he said we should come. And I was just like, oh, I completely respect that. Warren Buffett says you shouldn't invest in anything you don't understand, and I think that's sage advice. Like, hopefully by the end of the day, you'll feel like you know enough about it to make an educated decision. And if you still don't think it's worth touching, then that's your decision, and I totally respect that. So there's a lot of those kind of initiations, and then usually by the end of it, though, people are much much more excited about it and very interested. And I send them home with some additional information so they can look at different podcasts and books and whatever their media choice is to learn. They have those resources pre kind of laid out for them. But it's been so much fun. I wish I could do it full time. It would be a blast.
Sounds like it's a really important experience for a lot of these people, especially in the more rural areas where they have less access to local Bitcoin meetups where they can go meet people in person. So can you tell us, how are you reaching these people to tell them about your Airbnb? Where are you marketing your offer?
So I started initially on Meetup. I didn't have a whole lot of attention there, and I just kind of posted the Airbnb link there after I decided to go the Airbnb experiences route. And unfortunately, I'm pretty rural, so I still don't get a whole lot of reach, and it does kind of rely on people more or less looking for this, looking for someone to help them with this. And on one hand, that's good because it means that everyone who comes to my class is pretty open-minded and has maybe knows a little something about it. But yeah, I really need to look into a way to have more outreach because, like I said, being Meetup and Airbnb are both kind of local services. They really only outreach to people, within, say a 50-mile radius or something, or unless you specifically look for that town. And that is a limitation right now. But everyone who's found me so far has found me through one of those means. And I've had a couple people where they've made requests for me to, hey, like I can't make it, in that month or whatever, like, can you make a special time? Things like that. But yeah, I need to invest some more time into figuring out how to market to a broader audience. But part of the beauty of the class though is that it is in person, and I think that's really important to a lot of people, especially older, less tech savvy people who are my main crowd.
Thanks for joining us today and learning with us today. If the discussion with our guest resonated with you and you would like to dive deeper into the world of Bitcoin, don't miss out on joining the Orange Hatter Women's Reading Club. The meetup link is in the show notes. Also, if there are women in your life whom you think would both enjoy and benefit from learning more about Bitcoin, please share Orange Hatter with them. Until next time, bye!